Thank you. Deborah Thomas. She is an extraordinary woman. I met Deborah through Susan Hoskins, who is here tonight. Thank you for coming, Susan. So Deborah is a lady that her house, she has 5 children, I believe, or 6. Her house was arsoned. One of her child, she pulled her kids out. One of her child lost her eyesight. She herself is covered with several degrees of burn. She actually still limps as she walks around because she fell on her knee. And she was on welfare. She was a poor person. And she moved, of course, with her kids to her mom's house, which is a little apartment unit at 1413 some street. I think I have it right here. W, yeah, but I mean, I think I have it right here, which yeah. 1418 14th Street Northwest. So she moved there. And in the year 2000, the mayor of Washington, D.C. decided to rejuvenate Washington. Remember? We need to bring air and economic growth. So who was actually talking to the mayor? You think Deborah was talking to the mayor? The big money was talking to the mayor. So they said, you know what you need to do? You need to condemn these buildings. I mean, it makes sense. Think about it. All of it. We condemn these buildings. They're all bad buildings. Drug-infested neighborhoods. I lived on 17th Street and P. That was it. We could not go any further. Like you were walking a little bit like that. You were just going, oh, maybe. That's how the world over there. Really, I mean, drug-infested. We had homicides in my apartment building sometimes. And no police control. I was asking her, Deborah, how come you couldn't have police control? She said, well, because there were no incentives. So the policemen were the cousins of the guys who were actually doing the crimes. Or the brothers, or the sisters, or whoever, the mother. Anyway, so she shows up in this apartment building. Now she has graduated from high school, all right? And one good day she shows up, and she sees a little notice that her building, where her mother was born, she was raised, right, was condemned. This was a building that was turned into a project. It was not a project. It was a building that was rent controlled. The owner was some 80-year-old person in North Virginia or Virginia Beach, somewhere like that. And she just created awareness. She went to the municipal council. She went to a conference opening. She went to the municipal council. She started learning what are her rights. Her rights as a resident. Managed to stop can you believe this? She managed to stop the whole process of turning the building to be condemned and bus everybody from the building. We're talking about how many units? I don't even remember. 800 units? And that was one building in a whole apartment block. There were 4 other buildings there. This was one of the other 4. So she said, okay guys, this is not possible. You know we have the right of first refusal, but you know you cannot really buy it, whatever. She actually bought the building for $1. Wow. Transferred every person in this unit as owner of their unit. They had no knowledge, many of them. They were unaware, some others. They've learned. They've learned. And you know, the market doesn't, you don't need to have a PhD from Harvard in order to go to Oxford. You can figure it out. So did all these people before Harvard and Oxford was produced. So she bought the building for $1. She went and mobilized, well, she didn't have to go herself. The other ones went over. And that's what I'm saying, you create a critical mass. When I started the thing in Peru, I started the whole thing in Lima, and then I couldn't stop. I mean, they had the guys from Trujillo coming in and saying, Madame, do you think you can do it in my little city? And Madame, do you think you can do it in my little apartment? That's the same thing that happened to Deborah. Everybody was going and saying, can you help me? How can we do the same? So they raised money. One of the other 4 were not condemned. So they raised money, they bought it. So everyone became a homeowner. And busboys and poets are over there. That's where they are. I'm sorry, I'm not taking you there because it's a much longer ride. But Isn't this an amazing story?
Mm-hmm.
Please, Michael.
I want to know about the story of the Greek woman, and in Greece do they have adverse possession laws where she could say, I have all my papers, but assuming that they're not valid, I've sat on the land for 20 years, and through adverse possession, I now have formal legal title. So, and
Yes.
I have formalized the property that way.
Yes.
Not
Okay.
advocating adverse possession because it can create a lot of disincentives, as I assume Brazil is the case.
If you have if you have law of property, you have adverse possession. Okay, Michael De Gennaro is a lawyer who works for the Fed. And of course he brings in the legal terminology, but it's very interesting and important. If you have a property, you can own it, like you own the property. And now it depends, you can own the surface, you can own the subsurface, doesn't matter. You own the property, or you can win ownership of the property by just pacifically possess the property for a period of time. All countries of the world, all legal systems have that. Now it depends. You can be sitting on that property for 5 years, or 35 years, or 60 years, or 20 years. It depends on the country. But that is adverse possession. You're basically sitting on that piece of property, and you're squatting on that piece of property, but you haven't pushed anybody away. You do it under pacificamente y, ¿cómo se llama en América? Arthur, passively and peacefully. And so you haven't gunned somebody away, right? Because if you have done so, then you cannot use adverse possession. The problem, exactly what you're saying, presents the problem. The fact that you own the property, that it has been inherited or bought or sold, and you have to go and prove ownership through adverse possession, what type of market is that? What type of society is that? What type of security is that? I am married, but I am not really married because I have to prove, because I lost my papers, so I have to prove that I'm actually conjugate, ¿cómo se llama? Convivo, I'm
Common law married.
Conjugal.
yeah, so I have to go around it because I cannot go straight line. So I'll go to New York through LA because I can't really drive straight. So that's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly what we're talking about. Thank you for bringing it up.
I'm curious, in this example, can she use it for, I'm not saying that adverse possession creates all
No,
the
she
incentives, but
could. She's not using that because it's actually trespassing. Her neighbors have trespassed her. So it's the neighbors that are using adverse possession over her property. And in addition to that, they have used the system, so they have gone to the actual registry, the Greek registry, and have registered without adverse possession. They have just registered half of her property to their name. All right, this is too legalese, but...
By the way, my grandfather was one of those without papers.
I am sure that there are plenty of without papers if we walk out of this place, immigrants of some sort. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Well, Elena, you're wonderful, so thanks
My
for
goodness, thank
inviting me. I have a very natural interest being from Bulgaria. What attracts you in my country? What's your interest?
What attracted me in your country? Two very important things, actually. As an economist, I felt that if I am to start this program as a private entity, I should do it in a place that it has very bright human capital and vision. All right?
I have to say it in a way that I like it. So.
I'm glad if you do. No, it's bright and vision. I mean, it's extraordinary to see that. We don't see that in my country, my original country, Greece. There are a lot of people with brightness, but they don't have the vision. They forgot it in the ancient times. But in Bulgaria, you still find a lot of people that have that impetus. They want. I mean, it's funny. You talk to a mayor of a city, and they say, "Yes, can we actually do this? It will be great. It's important to have property rights in this place."